Financial wellness. Reach out to them for advice at 855-DON-GINO. And now back to your hosts, Don Getling and Gino Franti.
So, it's one of those things where necessity is the mother of invention, and the reality is that from this negative experience, and this is in all most facets of business, almost everything that we've got going for us today is somebody that woke up in the morning and said, that was absolutely horrible, I can do it better myself.
Agreed, 100%. Gino, I'm with you.
Yeah, so, you got guys like Elon Musk and these people that are revolutionizing the world, or Steve Jobs, or, any of these people that have changed the world over the last 20, 30 years. And I think all of them have come from the place, and this is something to say about America, is that the reality is that that's how we were built. We were built with, when you don't think someone's doing a good job at something, be an entrepreneur, change it, and do it yourself. And it sounds like more people are doing that about college.
More and more every day. I remember just a few years ago when I was a member of that program as a student, there were maybe 2 sections of those classes being offered at 25 students maximum. Now there's 5 sections. And so there's students being pumped into this system who are then coming out, and the real question is, do they understand how to market themselves well enough to be adequate counselors and survive on their own?
Well, that's a really interesting piece because, and this leads me to the book that I was going to read, and I got to go look up the exact title so I can give title credit where credit is due, because I haven't read the book yet. But the reality is, one of the things that could be dangerous in that class is that you're dealing with people that are good students, typically, otherwise they wouldn't be in college, and that the reality is that good students don't tend to be entrepreneurs very often.
That's true. That's a really good observation. And another gold star.
Yeah.
And it's in absentia, though, because Don isn't here to defend himself.
Okay, that's fair.
But you're exactly right. Sometimes we're great at school, but we're not great at life. I certainly at least believe that was my category in life as well. I get through my experiential learning in school, but don't have any experiential learning outside of the classroom. And it took me many, many years to figure out who I was or what I really cared about or how to take those interests and tools and turn it into something that really matters.
I found it.
All right.
All right, so this is one of my next reads, and it's Why A Students Work for C Students, and it's by the same author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, so definitely somebody that you want to pay attention to, and it's Robert Kiyosaki. And the reality is, and I haven't read the book, but I read a little snapshot of it, is because we don't have that, I don't have a 4.0 to brag about. I don't have those types of accolades, and I don't have that type of discipline. What I'm really good at is taking risk. I am really good at risking things, and that's why C students are willing to take a tremendous amount of risk, where A students are more risk averse.
That's a completely logical, pragmatic viewpoint, and so many families make this mistake, and so many students make this mistake. I actually just read an article about this very topic, the idea of a student has worked their tails off in high school, great grades, great curriculum, great test scores, beautiful essays, wonderfully well-developed extracurricular activities, letters of recommendation to the moon. They get into an Ivy League school, they blow the barn doors off their 3.7s and 3.8s, and they don't have a job because they don't really know what to do with this theoretical learning they have, and they don't have good experiential roots to build on. This is, literally, this was a student who graduated from Brown University, which is an outstanding Ivy League school, who was basically a barista for several years until she found an opportunity to get into a market that was a little bit better fit for her.
You mean until a C student gave her a chance?
Entirely possible.
So the reality is, and here we are with Rob Schwartz of Premier College Guidance, is it? I never get that right. And he's joining me today, and we're talking a little bit about college. And I'm going to bring up, we're going to digress a little bit in the second half. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think is the next catalyst to a financial catastrophe here in the United States. But I want to tie real quick into this because it's really interesting to me when you look at the difference between how people learn and things like that. So I read the top 16 or the top 10 interview questions for 2016, and one of them was, how do you get an elephant into a refrigerator? And you think about, really, when I go on a job interview, is somebody going to ask me that? And so out of curiosity, I asked my wife. I knew what my answer was, so I asked my wife, and so her answer was, you get a really big refrigerator. And I said, okay, well, there's no right or wrong answer to this, right?
Course.
And she goes, well, what was your answer? I go, you cremate it and you put the dust in the refrigerator. She goes, "You're willing to kill an animal?" I said, "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to solve the problem." And she goes, "Well, I could have solved the problem in a different way." I go, "Yeah, but it's very impractical. How are you going to get a humongous refrigerator?" I go, "You just burn it. I could do this in minutes."
And here you are as someone working in human resources or a particular department going, okay, what sort of mentality am I looking for to run my business or solve this particular problem?
Yeah. So I think it was really interesting and really enlightening to me how different people think in different ways, or they take more risk or take less risk. It doesn't make, I think intelligence is overrated in general. I think sometimes you have people that aren't that intelligent, but they're very good with people. And people skills become more important in how they succeed in real life than intelligence. And sometimes you have people that are incredibly brilliant and savants, but they're socially awkward and they can't get ahead of themselves.
It's rare, and you find the combination of both.
Yeah. So, I brought up the idea, and I'm going to throw this out there now. We could start the conversation, but I don't think we're going to finish it this quarter. So we'll have to finish it next time. But what I read an article about is that student loan debt has now become the largest form of debt in the country other than home mortgage. And so you're talking about, I think it's over $5 trillion in home mortgage. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, student debt's in the 1.5 range, 1.3, and it has now superseded the combination of credit card debt and home equity lines of credit. So unbelievable the amount of student debt that we have. And the student debt that we have is not bankruptable, I'll call it. So I see this as a catalyst for some sort of economic downturn in the future. And I'm going to let you think about that during the break here, Rob, because this is going to be interesting to see the different viewpoints. And I'd love to hear from you, actually, on this. So I'd love to get emails from you. Please send us emails, donandgino@gmail.com. I want to know what you think about student debt, and we're going to continue. This conversation is going to be for months at a time, so I may post something on our Facebook page as well. Check us out at donandgino.com, and when we get back, Rob and I are going to dig into this idea of student debt being the next financial catastrophe for this nation.